So I'm recording to the cloud. So it's recording. And I'm going to make you the host, and then I will watch this later. I apologize for not being able to stay.
How dare you have other obligations besides sitting and watching classes every night, Kat?
Yeah, you know, it's a thing. All right, you guys have a good time.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. How is everybody doing tonight?
Good. How are you doing?
Doing good. I'm very glad to be home and not at work anymore. I am mundanely a property manager, so the first of the month is always super fun.
Yeah. Oh, I bet.
So we'll give it a couple more minutes, see if anybody else wants to jump on and join us, and we'll get started.
Even on the internet, everyone's on SCA time.
I know. Better safe than sorry. I'm all paranoid. I'm going to say something and Aubrey's going to yell at me.
I would never yell. I would just say, I don't think that's correct.
You'll give me that look.
Right.
I don't need the look tonight.
I'd probably just end to message you so that I didn't say anything in front of other people.
That's fair. That's fair. I'm reminding you. Stop. I'll give it just like another minute.
No worries. Most of them, they've been giving people till at least 5 after, so you're fine.
Yeah, I did virtual event class a couple weeks ago, I think now, and we waited probably 5-10 minutes. I just feel like I should be entertaining. No, there's some entertainment.
There's our entertainment. Oh, aren't you pretty?
She's
Hi.
a brat. She's an absolute brat. All right, go on. Thank you. We're teaching her how to talk. Have you seen those buttons with the dogs where they push the buttons to talk? We've started that process.
That's awesome.
See, we'll see how well it works. So we started yesterday, and everything I read said to start with like one word and give them a while because it's new and different. She's super interested in the buttons. I opened them and she was already snoot booping all of them. So we'll see. She might just not like it at all. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. I'm Cailleach. I am the chronicler for Namron. I have been doing this for just over a year now, and I find it super fun, and it lets me easily give some service to the barony, and that other people seem to enjoy. So Kat asked me to teach this class on how to put out an awesome newsletter. I'm going to start at the very, very beginning, which is to get your chronicler's handbook from chronicler.onseora.org. It has a lot of your rules in it, things that you absolutely have to have in your newsletter, like your copyright statement and all of that, and which is really helpful because I found out after I'd been doing it for a while, it's been updated. So you used to have to put your mailing address on your newsletter, on your copyright statement, but now you can just put your email, which I think is really awesome because I don't necessarily want everybody knowing where I'm at all the time. So when I open up my newsletters, ours is the Plume. I'm going to probably referring to the Plume a lot. I apologize in advance. I always like to put my table of contents right up front so people know what they're looking for. And then I do a contributor credit. That way everybody who is not only an officer, but if they've submitted something, they have their name up there. And then I put the very, very first thing I do after all of that, and those are just the basics, is my letter from their excellencies. I always do that first to give them the respect for their position and everything that they do for our barony. And then I always include a note from myself as well for things that I've learned over the month, things I've seen, things I know that are coming up that might not have already been mentioned in the article, or like when I autocrated Beltane, I knew I wasn't going to be as in depth in some of my newsletters as I had been in the past, and I wanted to give people a heads up about that too, going, hey, I'm sorry, it's not what it normally is, but yay, autocrat. I notoriously harass my fellow baronial officers for missives every month. I give them a hard deadline of the 26th of each month. That way I know I personally have enough time to edit all of their missives for spelling and grammar and all that fun stuff, change it just a little bit so it flows better or fits the space that I have available at that time. There's almost always at least one person who is late and still wants to be included, which is awesome. And that's why I've set my deadline for them so much earlier than the deadline for the actual newsletter, which, if you don't know, is the 5th of every month. I am a stupid overachiever and like to get it out by the 1st. Generally because our populace meeting is the first Thursday of the month, and a lot of times it's on like the 2nd, and I want people to have that information already if they're not able to attend our meetings. One of the things I do to really personalize all of the officer missives is I use handwriting fonts that are different for each officer, and I kind of go through them, and sometimes I'll shoot back and forth if I think that they're really going to be persnickety about which handwriting font I use for them. Go, hey, these are the ones I was looking at. What do you think? And then that's going to be their signature for each missive. And I also use it for their greeting at the top, hello or happy populace. And then at the end, I close it with that specific same handwriting font and their office. And I also like to include the office badge. Because a lot of people, I think it's really good for them to know that heraldry as well. I like to include 2 calendars in my newsletter. The first is the baronial calendar for the month, where I include not only the meetings or any classes that are being held or practices, but also like fun things like since we're in Norman, mainly we have the Medieval Fair lecture series that the University of Oklahoma puts on, and they do sometimes every other week, sometimes monthly, just depending, but they'll have a guest speaker come in and talk about medieval history. So I like to highlight stuff like that, or what's the name of the other group? The AOA? Thank you. Like they're the local group here, they did a play and they wanted to invite everybody, so I did like an ad for that. So it's not necessarily SCA, but it's SCA adjacent and things that I think our populace members would also enjoy and benefit from knowing about. On that monthly calendar also, I try to customize it to the month and try to find some illuminations that I feel fit that month better. Sometimes I can't, and I just use silly clip art hearts for Valentine's Day or something, but it's fun, and it also helps you remember to make sure your dates are correct and use, but still be able to use that blank space on your calendar for something else. The second calendar I use is the Onsteora calendar events. And I always like to not only include, hey, this event's going on, but I also like to follow the website with these are some of the features that are going to be at the events. Like if there's Shiv or if Crown's going to be there, if there's any circles. And that way, because not everybody has access to the internet all the time, and that way they can easily download and have that right there with them. One of the other things I like to include are the Facebook events, because I know a lot of people do the maps and stuff from there. So just another resource for them to be able to easily get to that. The other thing I really like to feature is all of the current champions and their names, because they've earned it. And I think it's awesome that their names can be published for a year for what they did and what they won. And it's just an extra way to honor them and their accomplishments. When I am out of space, I like to make little ads, kind of like the old comic books, a little pop-up, hey, buy this for 50 cents and mail this in. But I like to do with fun historical facts, or hey, did you know, like, eels were used as currency and somebody used it to pay their rent on their land, and just fun little things like that, and use graphics to pop it up and fill that space if you need that extra space. I am personally very extra on the plume. I think the longest one so far has been 55 pages. But I use a lot of artwork to bring the illumination side into the newsletter as well, which I'll talk about in a little bit. Another really fun thing that I like to do is to include the populace in the newsletter is do a birthday section. What I do is I ask at the beginning of the month for the next month of, hey, is your birthday in August? Do you want to see your face in the plume under our birthday section? And I ask for a picture and their name with their full title. And I always ask, like, if it's Lord or Lady or Miss Sir or anything like that. I want to make sure that it's the proper title. Like, I have a Gaelic personality, so I've used Bantirna instead of Lady a lot of the times. So I want to acknowledge people on that front as well and use their preference. And then wear their birthday and their picture. And I always ask for a family-friendly garbed picture if they have it, because we all know sometimes people want to sneak something fun in there that probably shouldn't be published in the baronial newsletter. I also like to always try to include some fun things in there, like a coloring page or a word search or a crossword puzzle. One of our Populous members has a fantastic vocabulary list. She'll send me a list of like 15 words, like Norse terms or specific for certain regions, or if we're doing a like Halloween, we did some old spooky Celtic stuff and focused on some fae, and then I try to include that in like the crossword puzzle or the word search later on in that same newsletter, which is also super fun and a way to keep us learning. Recipes. Recipes are one of those things that you can easily republish and have some wiggle room on copyright law, because it's kind of hard to copyright a recipe of I use this much salt and I use this much flour. So it's one of those really easy ones that you can slide in there and not have to worry about getting dinged later on for copyright infringement. Speaking of copyright infringement, that's a huge thing that you have to be careful of in your newsletters. Basically, if it is online at all, it's probably copyrighted. So I always look at everything with I'm not going to be able to use this. I would like to, but I probably am not going to be able to get permissions in time. I have sent out several requests to Creative Commons, which is almost like public domain, but not. It's not fully copyrighted like a lot of things are. And there's little disclaimer statements generally at the bottom saying, hey, you can use this, but with permission. You can use this for educational purposes only. Please use this. That's what's super, but there's always a statement at the bottom. And then what I do so I can avoid any of that is I just use public domain. I have a fantastic list of public domain stuff that I've pulled, and I'll share that after class, is over of several websites that are public domain or have public domain stuff that are really appropriate for our time frames. So for me, when in doubt, if I don't 100% know I can use it, I won't. Because not only do I not want to get myself in trouble for copyright law, but I don't want to get the barony in trouble or kingdom or society or anything else because I was negligent in my job for that. There's a really fantastic article on copyrightlaws.com that talks about publishing stuff for newsletters specifically, and how to look at this stuff and how to find it. And that way that might help as well if you have any more in-depth questions about that, because my knowledge of copyright law is like this. So for me, I just, to cover myself, if I don't have 100% release, I personally do not use it because I don't want to get in trouble. When I put together my newsletter, I am personally using Google Docs, mainly because that's what my chronicler email is through. So it's really easy. It's all right there. I don't have to go hunting for everything. My releases are there. If they're not in my docs or my email or they're in my forms, I try to keep everything together. That way there's no question of, hey, what about this and where can I find this? It's free. I don't have to worry about being able to easily share it, because you could just put in a share link like, hey, I have a deputy who I basically use as a proofreader because that's what she wants to do, and I'm totally going to take advantage of it. But I can easily, once it's all done, I can share it with her. She can go through and edit it, and it shows exactly what she's edited and everything else. And I don't have to worry about sharing software or anything else. I know a lot of other baronies have been using, and it's a part of a Adobe package. I can't remember the name of it, but they also produce absolutely fantastic newsletters using that software. And I'll find out what that is and put that down in the comments as well. So when I got started doing the Plume, I did a lot of research on other newsletters within the kingdom and within other kingdoms, trying to get some ideas of what I liked that they did, that they didn't like, that I didn't like, that I'm like, And I have found in doing that and reaching out and asking questions on how they're doing their newsletters, that everybody is really happy to share in their ideas and how they do stuff. And I personally have used other chroniclers as resources with some questions and about layouts and software and articles and stuff like that. I have also been very fortunate and had other chroniclers share with me some of their event ads that they have releases for, or like we did right before the Gulf War that wasn't, we did a camping checklist thing. We also were trying to do a event report for a questionnaire to give other people, and that was originally put out from Steps, and they were very generous and said, please use it and let's share this with as many people as we can so we can get some info to people who aren't able to attend events and stuff. So that's been very, very handy. I've been very fortunate to have some pretty fantastic relationships with some other chroniclers that I wouldn't have had otherwise, and I love that. I love that about this office. One of the other things I really like to feature are special things about your local area that other people might not really know about. Like, we have a pretty massive lending library for stuff that we lend out. So I featured that one month, and that ended up being like 8 pages of books, and it's all separated out by genre, and so it's like historical or maps or children's books or anything like that. And I find it's a really good way to highlight things that your local group is doing or has that people might not otherwise know is there. Sorry, I'm reading my notes. One of the other things that I really like to use the newsletter for is advertising things that are upcoming for your specific group, or so if you have an event coming up, I really like to push that event ad if it's in early, or like save the dates or teasers or stuff like that, or if there's some bids coming up for feast or tavern, or have little ads like that, like little write-ups. So instead of having like a big graphic, I put like a cute little woodcut picture up there, and like, we're seeking tavern bids, kind of put a little brief description of what's in there, and then put that up there. It's a great way to fill space. One of the things that I really like about being a local chronicler instead of the kingdom is I have unlimited space. Unlike just the Black Star, like 16 pages, I think, and every little.
Yeah, it's 16 pages exactly, no more, no less.
And so I'm not limited by that for the local office. I want to say on average, with missives and ads. I think I've averaged around 24 pages, but as I said earlier, I'm super extra, and like I like giving people as much as I can for things that I think that they would like and like to see. I'm constantly pandering the populace for submissions, constantly in our Facebook group. I like to make graphics because in this day and age, people like graphics a lot more than they like words. I hate to say that, but they do. And I'm like, you wanted, looking for blah 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 specifically for the plume, and this is your deadline, and these are some of the things people have turned in. And another one that I like to use is like very, very, very like specific. I'm looking for these 4 different types of things I would really like to feature this month. And they have other ones that are just like, hey, we're looking for things. I personally use canva.com to make graphics. It's super, super user friendly. It's a free service, but it does have options to upgrade. You can use, they've just started putting in animated graphics, so you can use that to catch eyes even better. But that's the best response I've gotten to getting submissions, is to use those graphics on the Facebook group. I've asked people in person, I can send out emails, stand up during the populace meeting and go, I need submissions. But honestly, the best thing I found so far are those graphics for ads on the Facebook group. I went through that way faster than I thought I was going to. Does anybody have any questions? No questions?
Hey, can I say something for just a sec?
Yes.
You were talking earlier about your birthday section and how you put pictures of people, which that's a phenomenal idea. Something some people may not realize is that you do have to have a model release for every single person. And for the chroniclers, I've just started doing this really awesome thing where if you upload your releases to the Google Drive, then I've got a database that I've created that lists every single model release in the kingdom. So if you have a picture of, let's say, Jason, that, the people in Namron are going to have his model release on file most likely, but someone in Steps might not.
Exactly.
But because someone has it and it's listed on the database, the chronicler can look at that database and go, oh, look, there's a model release for Jason on file. I can use his photo. So that's something that is very handy now that all chroniclers have access to all those model releases. But it does mean that all the local chroniclers have to get their model releases uploaded. And then anytime you get a new one, you have to upload it. And no rush. I have a lot of groups that haven't done it, so I'm not pressuring. I just want to say that I'm tooting my own horn here just a little bit because I'm super impressed that I was able to work on this project.
I'm like, when I first stepped up, I was completely overwhelmed, and when I took over, I had nobody gave me any releases, so that was been a huge project. And I remember talking with you about it a long time ago, and you said you were going to work on this, and I just like beyond thrilled, because it's very frustrating getting releases. It can be. Other times it's like super simple and people are like, yeah, but yes, thank you, because I forgot to talk about releases. If it is your officer turning in a report, or missive as I call them, they don't have to put in a creative works release for that. However, anybody else does. Photographer releases, model releases, if you're using their picture, and they didn't take the picture themselves, or if somebody took the picture for them using their equipment, you still need the photographer release as well. I am become a stupid stickler for model releases. All of the release forms, I push them like crazy. I carry them with me everywhere. I harass people at pop meetings to fill them out. I have gone so far as to people going, oh yeah, I'll do it later, is fill it out for them and make them sign it while I'm standing right there. And I have been very lax in my getting them sent over to Aubrey's database because I have been busy with work, and I apologize. But it's coming, I promise.
Hey, there, like I said, no rush, no pressure. We all have lives, and the past year's been crazy. So it's just something that we're all working towards and as a group. So I'm just excited that everyone's participating.
I'm excited everybody's participating. The other thing for releases is if it's photos taken at an event, when it's an event scene of a crowd scene, you can use that without getting individual photo releases. I personally am like stupid leery of using anything with a child in it, because you need like 20 million releases to publish a picture of a child, just in case, because you want to cover yourself. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry I talked over you.
Oh, no, it's fine. I was just saying, I was also very excited because that's a project we've tried to work on for forever. And there are people you would think the kingdom has releases for that they didn't keep from 20, 30 years ago. So like previous crowns who've been crowned 3 times, and you discover the kingdom doesn't have a release for their photograph.
It's super fun, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Hey, Lilith, you're in Moonshadow. I need a model release for Jillian.
Okay.
Awesome.
I'll make sure to ping her about that.
But yeah, that's what you're talking about, is like the releases themselves only started about 8 years ago. Before that, we didn't have to do it. So that's why people who were crowned more than 8-10 years ago, there aren't releases on file for them. So we're having to track them down, or if they've been crowned again, we have them now. But yeah, I have a list of the royalty who we don't have releases for. So
that's really weird that we don't have one for Jillian.
I'm sure that she signed one at some point and it just did not get put in the files. I have one for JP, but not her.
Right. And I mean, I've had one pair of crowns who chose not to sign a release and have their photo used. And I was like, okay, that's your choice too. That actually happened with one set of crowns that last few years.
They can't do that.
Huh?
They can't do that.
They can't refuse to have photos of themselves used?
Not as crown.
Not as crown.
Okay.
That's one of the expectations. I don't know. I would have to look into it, and we've kind of hijacked your class just a little bit.
No, you were good.
As far as I was made aware when the releases started, that as crown they could not choose to not have their photos used. I am sure that legally they technically can. It's one of those that it's an expectation of the job. But if they choose not to, then we have to make sure that everyone knows. And Lilith, I know which set of crown you're talking about, and I guarantee you their picture was on the cover of the Black Star. So that becomes a confusing issue.
Yeah. Well, I didn't end up using their picture on the Black Star while they were crowned while I was kingdom, because to be fair, I had a specific picture and they wanted to know which picture it was, and they I think it's more that they just never got back to me suspiciously.
Right. I saw that email. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure.
Going through all the releases, I found that email.
Yeah, that with the picture. Well, they wanted to know which one it was, and I was like, well, that's fair, because if you don't find it flattering, maybe, I was like, we can use a different one, but here's the one I found that looked the best, and I just never got a response.
I think it's because when they were crowned before, we didn't have releases, and I think that they just didn't realize that we legally have to have them. So it's one of those, it's water under the bridge. It's not a big deal now, but that is something that all chroniclers need to be aware of, is while We 95% of the time say yes, we have royalty releases on file because that's the expectation. We do all have to still be vigilant and double check that, because if it's not on file, we legally can't use a photo of that person if it's a portrait style photo. Now, if it's a picture of them at an event, like you said, and there's 20 other people around, you're good to go. But if they're in front of the thrones and it's just the two of them, then that's where the issue comes in.
One last thing that I want to add in on mine, that I like to do, and I've gotten a lot of absolutely fantastic feedback from my fellow populace members, is I try to make the pages of my newsletter reminiscent of illuminated manuscripts. So I like to put the fun side scrolls and divide things with really pretty dividers, and try to use as much historically accurate illuminations that I can like that. I'll put some description or some examples in the comments. I want to say I'm on YouTube. I'm sorry. And then I'm going to put the list of the sites that I use. The main one I've actually been using a lot right now is Wiki Commons, because you can get a lot of photography, a lot of clip art, a lot of woodcuts. I've even found some manuscripts from like the Book of Kells without the color, so you can use it for a coloring page and stuff like that, which I think is fantastic. And I like to be able to do stuff for MOC stuff as well, and put that in the newsletter, even though I know most children aren't reading the newsletters and the missives and everything, but to still include them and give them something as well. But that's honestly all I have tonight, guys. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to let me know, or if you have any ways that you think I personally can improve on my newsletters, if you've read them, I would love to talk with you about it. I'm always looking to improve myself and help anybody else out with theirs. So if that's it, I'm going to say goodnight and wish you all a happy evening.
All right. Thank you so much for teaching.
Thank you for coming and hanging out with me tonight.